So you say you have an L series John Deere that needs a drop belt replacement and all the videos you've watched are shaky and dark? Well, fret no more. Give me a chance to show you how. Let's get after it. Begin by locking the parking brake. This is not so much a safety issue per se, as it merely relieves tension on the drive belt. I love my viewership and I regularly go to extremes to get you guys a good clear angle. In this case, I painstakingly removed the right rear wheel, which is totally unnecessary for this job, but absolutely necessary for clear video. I'm going to begin at the rear of the tractor. Let's start by identifying some of what we're seeing. Here's the hydraulic transmission, and here the cooling fan. This is the drive belt to be replaced. And on this plate is one of 3 belt guides that I painted red for better clarity. Notice the belt goes inside these guides. This plate will need to be removed and I'll show you how shortly. Underneath the tractor we'll be able to see a guide bar for the drive belt. You will note that although the belt goes around the pulley on top of the transmission, the belt is sandwiched between the plate and the guide bar. Let's remove the guide bar first. Back up top, take your socket or wrench and loosen the guide bar nut. If you note the far side of the guide bar, you'll see it bobbing up and down. Let me show you why. The right side of this guide bar has nothing to hold it in place. No nut, no threads. It's merely held there by the tension of the nut on the left side. Once removed, I replaced the nut onto the bar for safekeeping. Begin removing the plate by first removing this nut and washer. Pick up the plate in the rear first, then slide it rearward like this. It takes a bit of manipulation to twist and turn the plate to avoid springs and wires and eventually remove it out the bottom. The plate is secured on the far side with tabs that fit into a square hole in the frame in front and a slot cut into the frame at the rear. A close-up of this plate now reveals the 3 belt guides. The flat tab here slides into the square frame opening, then the tab bent 90 degrees simply lowers into the rear slot. The drive belt can now easily be removed from the transmission. Before turning our attention to the belt removal at the front of the tractor, be sure to exercise caution by removing the negative battery terminal cable. This will prevent accidental engine startup. Let's turn our attention to removal of the electric clutch. You may use an impact wrench, but note if I turn the mounting nut by hand, I end up turning the entire drive shaft. By the way, this was the reason for the previous safety step. I need a way to hold the D-spacer while breaking loose the nut. Because the D-spacer is shaped as such, I can fit my adjustable wrench on it while bracing the wrench against the frame at the top, then breaking loose the nut with my socket. Only loosen the nut, do not remove it yet. Here on the side of the clutch you can see the anti-rotation bracket, which must be removed. This bracket prevents the clutch from spinning when it's engaged. It is screwed onto the frame and held in place with this nut. Remove the bracket with a twisting motion in this manner. Disconnect the clutch electrical connection by lifting the clip and sliding forward. Finish removing the clutch mounting bolt, being aware of the clutch weight of 14 pounds. Here we can see the removable clutch pulley and the electrical clutch connection wire and receptacle. You may ask, why do I need to remove the clutch to get the drive belt off? Here is the reason. Just like at the rear end, the front end has these 3 belt guides which prevent the belt from coming off the pulley. Next, as I draw your attention to these 4 points, you can see how the belt cannot be pulled out in either direction because of the steering wheel shaft. Before removing the shaft, note how I marked the very bottom with some tape and an arrow that points to a blue mark on the steering sector gear and a blue mark on the 11-tooth pinion gear. This will assist with realignment during reassembly. Remove the nut holding on the pinion gear. At this point, you may want to grasp the steering wheel and hold it firm to provide counter pressure. Once removed, you can see that the pinion gear, because of the internal spline location, can't be mounted upside down. Grasp the steering wheel and pull up approximately 6 inches to allow for belt clearance. Drop the belt down. And now, having removed the steering wheel shaft, pull the belt over the top of the steering gear plate. Note that you don't have to remove these 2 pulleys in order to remove the belt. Simply loosen the nuts and drop the pulleys down, then pull the belt out from between the pulley and the belt guides. Because my pulleys are 18 years old, I'm going to go ahead and replace them since I'm in this deep into the project. Note the larger pulley on the left and the smaller on the right. I figured I'd have to struggle with their removal, but they came off with very little persuasion. Now the drive belt can be removed. Replace these pulleys in the same manner, threading the nut for each, yet leaving room to mount the new belt. Speaking of, this is the belt I ordered off eBay. It's an OEM belt from John Deere. Having had 18 years on the old one, there's no need to branch out now. If your old belt is not broken, it's a good idea to use this rudimentary method of standing on both belts and stretching them out to ensure you have the correct length before reassembly. Begin the reinstall by looping the drive belt between both pulleys and their respective belt guards as shown. Note that the back of the belt rides against the face of the larger pulley. You may choose to torque these nuts, but I'm just going to snug them down tightly with a ratchet and then use my breaker bar. I drape the belt temporarily around the rear transmission pulley until it is pulled tight at the engine location. Remember how I told you the clutch pulley was removable? Shown here, is the keyway on the pulley shaft, and here the key inside the clutch, also known as the shear key. Slide the clutch pulley onto the engine crankshaft while fitting the new drive belt in place. Press the sides of the belt so it fits inside the belt guards. Note the location of the keyway in preparation for matching it to the clutch key when lifting the clutch into place. Lift and slide the clutch onto the clutch pulley, then insert the bolt through the D-spacer and tighten a few turns. Remount the anti-rotation bracket and fully tighten. Continue to tighten the clutch bolt. Do not use an impact wrench. You may wish to use some anti-seize on the bolt threads. Torque to the following specs. This is from an earlier video clip, but don't forget to reinstall the electrical connection to the clutch in this manner. Now press the steering wheel downward through the bushing, aligning the arrow upwards. Mount the pinion gear, aligning the arrow with the two blue marks. Reinstall the steering wheel shaft nut. Grasp the steering wheel to provide counter pressure and tighten the nut with a boxed-in wrench or socket wrench. Note that when the parking brake is released, pressure is placed back onto the belt. Lastly, mount the rear belt guard plate by sliding the flat tab into the square hole in the frame in front, and then the tab bent 90 degrees lowers into the rear slot in the frame. Note how the belt guards fit around the outside of the belt. Reinstall the nut and washer onto the rear belt guard plate. Hold the belt guard bar in place while threading the nut, making sure to fit the bar into the guard plate hole on the right side. Finish by tightening the guard bar nut. If you followed this earlier step, don't forget to reinstall your negative battery terminal cable. Now I wire tied the clutch connector after mounting the deck to be sure the wiring would not interfere with any mechanical operation. I will provide links to each new part I ordered. Enjoy your lawn tractor, as this project is complete.